I ask my children, what's one piece of advice I should give my students, and parenting advice that they should, that you should learn. They said, give them chocolate, be nice to them, but not too nice, but really take them to the beach and be patient. So we all struggle as parents. Thank God I'm parents of 5. But if you have some foundational wisdom, you'll get back on track. And what's the ultimate prize of raising children after 20, 30 years? Grandchildren. That's the ultimate prize. And just like all my classes, like on dating and marriage, I want you to have a passionate relationship with one person the rest of your life. I want you to have strong self-esteem. I want you to have great friends and family and understand how to manage relationships. You have to have wisdom when being a parent. Because you walk in, am I allowed to stand up, Rabbi? Okay, I'm sitting down. So I walk, you go to a hospital, you have a baby, or like my wife does. We have their babies at home. We're a little crazy. Anyway, so you go to a hospital, they hand you a baby. What's the one question they ask? They ask you one question. It's all they care about, nothing else. What's that one question? Do you have a car seat? You said that? Is it healthy? Do you have a car seat? That's all they care about. They hand you the baby. I'm like, where's the instruction manual? What am I supposed to do? And you can go to the hospital. There's no test you have to take. Just like getting married, there's no test you have to take, class you have to study in order to have a passionate relationship. And this way, 90% of relationships fail because you have no idea what you're doing. And I'm going to give you clues today. I'm going to give you tips today, practical advice on how to be a great parent. And the reason why this is such an impactful class is because there are a lot of things in here that you can use as a parent, that you can use in negotiating a contract, getting a job, negotiating rent, getting married, different things that are going to help you in all aspects of your life. So what's the outcome of this class? How do you determine if you're going to become a parent and you want to become a parent, God willing, you'll have a lot of children someday, amen, right? What do you consider success? How do you consider yourself as a successful parent? If your kids are happy, you just said open, healthy relationship. You just gave the answer. Yes.
Your kids don't turn out like you.
No, not. For some people, for sure, that's the case, right? So I'm going to give you some of my answers. So number 1, success is when children make decisions based on your thinking. If you're a healthy thinker and are emotionally healthy and make proper decisions in life, without realizing it, they're going to go into the world and they're going to have to make decisions in life in their 20s and 30s, and you're not going to be there for them. And they're making decisions based. They're not thinking to myself, oh, what would my dad do? What would my mom do? No, I'm not thinking that. It comes internal. It comes from their soul. It comes from their essence of who they are. When they want to spend time with you, especially when you're older, an example I'm going to give you, last summer I was eating lunch with my wife on our beautiful balcony overlooking Jerusalem. And I'm sitting with my wife, it was around 12 o'clock, and my daughter, who's 16 at the time, is eating lunch in the kitchen, picks up her plate of food, walks outside, and sits with us on the porch. Now, to me, I said to my wife, see, this is success. My daughter, who's 16 years old, teenagers are a little crazy, right? And she wants to eat with us. That's success. When you hear from your friends about what immense your children are, obviously, if you're a parent here, if there's any parents, we have some parents here, I think, right? Are you a parent? Right? And you clean up, hey, everyone clean up for Shabbat dinner, and they do nothing. But when they go to your friend's house, you hear about, oh my gosh, Moshe was such a mensch. She cleaned up the tape and was so nice and polite. But you hear about it from your friends. Not at home, not the same thing, right? When they're independent thinkers, when they're resilient, when they're not afraid to take risks, but not foolish ones, when they have a successful marriage, and as you said, when they're happy, but ultimately, there's only one thing you really want from your kids. I'm not going to go to my son, Liam, who just turning 21 in a few months. Liam, it's been great raising you. Here's your bill, $385,000. Pay me over the next 10 years interest-free. I'm not giving my son a bill for raising him. Why? What do I want from him? I want a relationship. That's it, and a healthy relationship. That's all I want in this thing. So how do we raise children to basically, and it's a given. You want your kids to be, richer, happier marriage, taller, more money, everything you want. Obviously, we can say these things, but really, ultimately, you want a relationship. So this class is going to be based on 4 different parts. Number 1 is what's called recognize your role as a parent, because it changes as the kids get older. Number 2, make a fence for your children. Number 3, understanding parenting, the great parenting paradox, and it is a paradox. And number 4, be a hugger, not a bugger. So number 1, what is your role as a parent? So there's 3 roles as a parent. 1 is called the director. Number 2 is called the supervisor. And number 3 called the consultant. Because when you're young, you're directing everything they're doing. Everything. Who they're going to play with, what they're going to eat, when they're going to go to sleep, what they're going to wear. You are a complete director. You're setting the scene. You're like a director in Hollywood. You tell the actors where to go and what to say. You control everything. Now, what is the first time as a parent that you're going to go through a lot of stress? When does that occur? When they go to school, like around 4 or 5? Anyone else? When they start talking, okay. That's not the answer. Well, it could be, but it's probably not, huh? No. You don't think parents have stress before they're trying to get married? How old are you? 18. So when do you plan to get married? At least a few years, right? Right. Your parents had no stress with you right now? Your whole life, 18 years?
I feel like I was a perfect child.
You might have been, but I guarantee you there was a time when they had stress. And I'm waiting for the parents, and that's a difficult one. Not the first one. That's a different thing.
I'm serious. The first time they start crying and you realize you can't make them stop.
You're pretty much on.
Okay.
But it's not that, because when they're 6 months old, yes, go ahead.
When the baby's first born, and they ask, like, is the kid breathing?
Yeah. Well,
For a second,
well, we want to make sure, obviously, that's a given that we want to ensure the kid's breathing, of course. But that's more than just stress. That's distress, right? The first time that you're going to go through stress as a parent is not when they're 6 months old and you can't stop them from crying because they're teething or they're tired or want to go to the bathroom. What you do is you rock them, you put them in the bathroom, you give them some food. They cry for a number of reasons. One is they're hungry, they have to go to the bathroom, they're teething, or they want to go to sleep. And all those issues you can pretty much take care of. The teething's a little bit harder, but if you rock them to sleep, they'll go to sleep when they're teething. The issue comes when they come, it's called, in my book, it's called the terrible twos. And this is when a baby is around 2.5 years old. Because remember, you've been directing everything about this baby. They have no control in life. But around 2.5 years old, they start to think to themselves, wait a second. I can make my own choice in life. And I can't. Because my mom and dad are deciding everything that's going on in my life. And I don't like this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the mall and I'm going to scream on the ground for about 30 minutes without being consoled, right? And you've been in the mall and you've seen these babies, these 2.5-year-olds crying, 3-year-olds crying on the floor. You know what I'm talking about? I can't be the only one that's seen this, right? No? You guys haven't seen this in the mall? First tantrums, these tantrums, they're called tantrums. And the reason why they have no control in life. And one of the worst things we get as an adult we have no control. Imagine you work at a job you hate, but you have to have the paycheck to pay the rent and pay the food, and you're stuck in this dead-end job, and you're trying hard to switch jobs. You can't quit, so you have to have that paycheck. You are stuck, and it stinks. But again, you're an adult. You can control your emotions. You're not going to lie on the floor crying for 30 minutes like a 2.5-year-old. The example I like to use, I used to fly from Dulles to LAX in LA a lot, like every other month. I used to take the early morning flight, and we always land like almost an hour early. We land an hour early, and the pilot gets on the intercom system. Ladies and gentlemen, we did great. We landed an hour early, but unfortunately, our gate's not ready. So we're going to sit in the tarmac for about 55 minutes. And you feel stuck. You're there. You're in LA. You see the mountains. You see the sun. You're like, I'm here. I made it. I can't get off the plane. A 2-year-old feels the same way. They have no control in life. And this lesson I'm going to give you is a game changer in life. If you've learned nothing else from my classes, this is a game changer. Here's how you do it. My daughter, Noah, she's a sweetie pie. She was about 3 years old. And when I lived back in Rockville, but first of all, I moved to Israel about 6 years ago from the DC area. And just because some of you are new, you don't know me, but I was not raised in a religious home, very secular home. Became religious at about 45 years old. And when my youngest was born, Noah, we were religious, but my first 2-3 kids, we were like transitioning, that transition. So some of my kids are about chuzas, some of my kids are, from birth, whatever. So I give her her pajamas. She's about 3 years old, and she starts to throw a fit. And she's screaming, no, 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 no. Of course, what I do, I take away the pajamas. I put them away. I get out 2 other pairs of pajamas, and I say to her, do you want the pink balloon pajamas, or do you want the red fireman pajamas? You know what she does? She grabs one, she runs in the bathroom, and she changes. No more crying. Do you know why? Because I gave her the options. You should be teaching this class. You got every answer right. I gave her options in life. And this is the key as a parent. Give your child options. Another example, my son, By the way, this is not always going to work. I'm being honest with you, but it works a lot. Yes, it works for teenagers. It works for negotiating contracts. I'm in the middle of negotiating a release of my property in Bethesda, and I'm trying to negotiate with this bank, and she gave me an idea, and I came back with 2 options for her, and she picked an option. And it made it much easier because I gave her a choice. So she feels like she's in control even though I made those choices. You get it? It changes the whole dynamics of a relationship. Because we're going to learn that when you start to say no to your children a lot, you know what's going to happen? They're going to stop listening to you. When you say no, they're going to say yes just because they start to spite you. Parents that say no all the time are ruining their relationship with their kids. And I've learned to not say no. I give choices. So my other example I was going to use when Shia, my other son, he was in a high chair eating his breakfast, his food, whatever, and he grabbed on the dinner table. He grabbed a dinner knife, not a sharp knife, not like it was a really sharp knife, but like a dinner knife, which is not, it's hard to cut yourself. Of course, I don't want Shia playing with a dinner knife. So what do? Here's my choices that most parents would do. First choice is grab the knife out of his hand, and what's going to happen? He's going to cry. So what do? Show him a fork and a spoon. You know what I showed him? I showed him a set of jangly keys, like toy keys, and I showed him a little dolly, like a little dog. Shia, hey, which one of these do you want to play with? He puts down the knife, he takes the keys, and I take the knife away, and there's no argument. Do you understand what I just did? I took the power out of my hands and put it into his hands, even though I'm controlling the power. And this is a game changer in a restaurant. And that is basically a director. And that's how you direct a child. Obviously, when they're 6 months old, and they're crying nonstop, you have to give them a breast or a bottle or put them to sleep. Those are things. And obviously, it's hard work. I'm being honest with you. And this is the same with marriage. If you want to be a great parent, if you want to be a great spouse, it takes hard work. I had to get up at 3 in the morning. My wife couldn't console the baby because they're done breastfeeding. They're done. They're just crying. You take the baby. I go into a different room. I turn on jazz music. And I start dancing for 20 minutes. And I did this every night. And I looked forward to doing it because I get to put my kids to sleep. Is it hard work? Yes. But just like in a marriage and relationship, if you make love fun, make it into a game, you want to play it, make parenting fun. And so I look forward to listening to jazz music at 3 in the morning. I had to make it fun. That you have to do sometimes. My first child, he would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, completely wide awake, like wants to go play. Thank God my other kids didn't do this. And so I had to get up with the kid, and I I'd feed him some breakfast. This is a really true story. I put him to a sling, and I go take a walk for about an hour. I come back, and by then he falls asleep. I give him to my wife, or he breastfeeds and goes to sleep, and I'd sleep in the morning. I sleep 3 hours in the morning. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to adjust your schedule for the kids. And some parents are going to take that kid at 4:30 in the morning, put him in the crib, and let him cry it out. And you know what happens? That makes kids have no understanding that their parents have their back. People call it cry it out, and I'm totally against this. Because that kid's feelings are, my parents are not there for me. Even though they're 6 months old, a year old, 2 years old, it sits with them the rest of their life. And this is one of the reasons there's so much anxiety and depression. Because people don't have the ability they feel like their parents don't have their back. If I don't know if any of you guys have met my kids, some of you have, I have very independent kids. Because this is how we raise our kids. Once you pass the director, then you become a supervisor. A good supervisor is a leader who can inspire their children to make the right decisions and get them to think it's their idea. This is when your kids get to be 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Obviously, you're not directing anymore. You're there to supervise them. They pick their own games out. And it's really important to understand that kids do what you do, not what you say. You can say something all the time, but if you don't do it, it means nothing to them. Nothing to them. One of the examples I give in my house that we have a rule is called no mindless eating. I was at someone's house one time, and he gives this kid, I guess this kid was like 5 or 6 years old, he gives his kid a bowl of cereal. And he puts the kid in front of a TV, like 2 feet in front of a TV, a giant TV, and the kid's like this, eating cereal, watching TV. Can someone tell me, is that healthy or not? Why is it not healthy? I call it mindless eating, and I'm sure we've all done this. You've been in a party, and there's a a thing of nuts there, peanuts. You're sitting in the party talking to your friend like this. Oh yeah, I love that movie. Oh yeah, the game was great. And you're sitting like, and you know what happens? You become an unhealthy eater because it's called mindless eating. God put food on here in this earth for us to enjoy and get pleasure from, not eat it mindlessly. And so I have a rule in my house, which I enforce but not too strictly, that when my kids are going to eat, they cannot watch any video time, which means no movies, no videos, right? It's easy to do. And so I have to hold by it. I don't do it. I do not watch anything while I'm eating. I let them read. That's fine. My kids are avid readers, but I do not let them watch any TV. Now, my older son, for a while, okay, he started playing chess online. He's very good and very smart. I tell him, Leon, there's a rule in the house, no videos watched. Eating, he goes, yeah, I know. I'm not gonna start a fight over it. He's smart. It's not like he's watching some cartoon, right? He's playing chess. He's using his brain. So obviously, there's times you have to give in on certain things. So, how to get your kids to think it's their idea? So when we lived in Rockville, Maryland, we had 3 rooms. I had 5 kids at the time. I still have 5 kids, thank God. At least the ones I know about. Anyway, so that's a joke. It's a joke. Come on. That'd be funny, right? I don't expect anything else, but you never know. It's whatever. Like I said, I wasn't raised observant. So, this is why I teach about passionate relationships because, I dated a lot. I met my wife at 34, got married at 36, and I dated a ton. And I learned a lot about dating. This is why my dating marriage classes are so popular because I have clarity. I say all the things that people think, but don't come out and say it. Anyway, so what was I talking about? So I had 3 rooms, and 3 of the girls were in one room, and 2 of the boys in the other room. And the third room was considered the playroom. We called it the lounge. Had a beanbag chair, had toys and stuff. So my girls are now getting older. They're not, instead of 5, 6, 7, they're now 10, 11, 12. And the boys' room had all the closets. For some reason, I don't know how it happened, whatever. So my daughter says to me, Abba, I want to go into the boys' room. I want to switch rooms. Now, my oldest at the time was maybe 14 or 15. And I said to my daughter, if you ask to switch rooms, he's going to say no. Because that's what brothers do. They're going to say no. So I said to her, you have to outsmart him. I said, pretend you want to go into the lounge. Tell everyone, hey, we want to move into the lounge. And that's exactly what she did. You know what happened? My older son said, no, I want to move into the lounge. There's a reason why I had better views and stuff. Like I had some things about it that were better. And he goes, no, I want to move into the lounge. And so they thought about it for 2 days. And finally, my daughter gave in and said, okay, Liam, you can move to the lounge. He moved his room to the lounge. And she just quietly snuck in and moved her stuff into his room. And she had her closets. Because I got her to make sure that it was someone else, it was their own idea. Right? Do you get my point? And sometimes in relationships, you have to use nuanced situations. You have to use nuances. Huh? Manipulation will lead to capitulation, which means it will lead to a happy home. A happy home. Sometimes you have to do things in life in order to have a happy home. Just like I'll go to my wife sometimes and I'll say, this is manipulation in a way that's good. So for example, I'll go to my wife, hey, I made a cup of coffee for you. I want some sex. And I'm saying it's a joke, but like you do it, and you start to make coffee every single day. And next thing you know, you just make her coffee. And so it's normal for me to make her coffee. So my wife, I do it for her. I want to have I do everything to protect the marriage and make sure I have a great relationship. Let me give you an example. In my class on my dating, huh? Transactional. Okay, we're switching the words now. Now it sounds healthy, right?
It's not the point is not the word. The point is what it actually means. Because the person gets the good manipulation, they can start.
Let me give you an example. So in my dating marriage class, about respect, right? We talk about that love means different things to different people. Love for women means attention, affection, appreciation, awareness. And for a man, it means to be respected, right? Now, a man will respect when a man shows his wife those 4 A's, that respect is going to follow. For a fact, right? My point is, the trick that I tell the women, what's the trick? Do you know this trick? When a man comes home from work or learning and he walks into his house, the wife should be on the phone and loudly say, hey, Sarah, I have to go. My husband just walked in. Click, hi, honey, game changer. Do you know why? Because the husband walks in and thinks he is, whether he's king of the house or not, his wife is making believe that he is the king of the house and he feels respected. And that's more important than running up and hugging him, kissing him, which, by the way, does not last after 1 week of marriage, right? Most of the time, more important is to feel respected, right? And a man feels respected when his wife does it. Is that manipulation? By the way, my wife does it all the time, and she doesn't talk on the phone. You know what? She's faking it, and I know she's faking it, and she knows that I know she's faking it, and I don't care. Let her manipulate me. It makes me feel great. Yes.
Also, when you're like, oh, let me ask my husband, even though, like, let's say for Shabbos meals, every time my mother wants to host someone, she's like, let me ask my husband. He doesn't even know what we're doing for Shabbos. It's
Right.
like a similar concept.
I do the same thing with my wife.
Right.
Because people ask me all the time, I'm the one that does the cooking and the shopping. So people ask me, can I come for Shabbos? And sometimes I'm like, let me ask my wife. And I ask her, but like, usually I'm the one that gives the answer. She just wants to know what's going on, right? She'll go, okay, that's it. No more. No, we're closed. We're full. And then like a good friend asks, like, what about Moshe? Like, okay, I'll take Moshe. What about the 2 students at class that come every day to my essentials class? Like, okay, they can come too. Next thing we're at 20 people. Go ahead, Rabbi.
This second example, I feel, is bordering in check, like a borderline sheker. Whereas the first one, I understand, is the right thing is that the daughter should have the room.
Yeah.
So therefore, if we have to manipulate or maneuver, that's a nice word, so it's just right because it's leading to the MS. What the MS is, what's right. Here, a phony kavod is just phony. I don't see the two.
Let me tell you something. When a husband walks in the room and a wife recognizes he's walking into the house, she has to stop and think, oh, my husband's coming home. I want to make sure he feels respected. And this is the trick that I teach.
If that's how she feels, but if she's only doing it to present a false.
If she doesn't respect him, she's not going to do it.
You say underneath this superficial.
Yeah, if she's, and it's okay. Sometimes you do things.
She's not even on the phone really. I mean, that's. I'm not.
She's not. And by the way, if you do things for the wrong reasons, sometimes you'll come to doing for the right reasons.
Okay, but that itself is a compromise. I think.
Do you know why I came to Orthodox shul for the first time?
But it is for a 3-year-old. Of course it is. For a 3-year-old.
Does it look like if you drew daddy? Does it look like daddy? No. So
It's
what?
artistic.
It looks just like daddy. You're such an artist. That's how we do it. It's called transactional. It's called loving.
I hear. I'm not trying to monopolize anything, but I hear. However, a 3-year-old that did something to show to daddy or for daddy is etzem beautiful. There's no real sheker there. She did see her capabilities. This is I think I hear. At least I could someone agree. One person, but I hear. I'm sorry. I'm in product.
That's okay. I just want to create passionate living relationships that last a lifetime. That's all I'm doing. And I'll do anything I have to make them.
A phone call at least. And she means it.
No. This is easier. This is easier because sometimes we don't want to talk on the phone. The husband doesn't talk to her. Obviously, I teach the husband to come in and ask his wife 3 questions for sure. I tell him to show her his wife's attention. That's a part of a relationship. And when he comes home, because we come home as guys. No offense, if you guys are. There's no guys who are like older than no, but like. When you come home from work, if you're working all day, you want to come home, you really want to grab a beer, sit on the couch and watch ESPN highlights. You're not interested in talking to your wife. You're just not. Because we don't have that connection. We don't have that need to sit there and give you attention. We want to be by ourselves. My father used to come home from work, play in the garden, take a nap, play in the pool, and he kept talking to my mom at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Of course, they did not have a great relationship. Because I wasn't there teaching my father when I was 5 years old, because I didn't have this class in my head, right? I didn't write the book Sunscreen Love by then. I wish I could have taught my parents because no one has the tools. You spend more time getting your driver's license than you spend learning how to be in a relationship. Right? And that's why most relationships fail. You had a question?
No, I wanted to I have it done. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I just said that. Yeah, fake it.
Show it till you know it.
Huh?
Fake it till you know it is very fake. Show it till you know it. It's like you're showing, you're not faking.
When I started my Jewish journey, I was in my 40s, and I'd go to Aisha Torah in Rockville, Maryland. It was run by the time Lori and Yaakov Plotnick, Rabbi Plotnick. And they used to have a veggie chillin. And I'd never heard the word chillin before in my life. And they had great kiddush. And I used to go for the kiddush. And that's fine.
It's a mitzvah.
I used to go for kiddush. It's drive in, get there at 11:30, listen to a shiur by Lori or something, and stay for kiddush. And I came for the kiddush. And I faked it. And in fact, before that, I used to go to this conservative shul in D.C. called Adas Israel. It's the biggest conservative shul in D.C. And they started this egalitarian minyan with people who I would call more like conservadox. It was I had never seen this before. It was a lot of young people who grew up like modern or very strong, frum conservative Jews. And they had this own minyans, lay-led, men and women. And they give Devar Torahs. It was mostly in Hebrew. And it was really nice. And they used to have a separate kiddush from the main shul. This is the biggest conservative shul in D.C., so a lot of people, thousands of people. So I'd go for the kiddush because it was a meat market. I mean, I'd come because of the girls. I mean, they got me there. Like, there's all these single girls, they're all Jewish, right? So I'd show up at 11:45, right before Adon Olam, right, in Aleinu. I stand in the back with the other young people. And I sit in the Kiddush. And then I started coming at 12:30, and then 11:15. Next thing you know, I'm showing at 8:30 for Bezukah Zimri. So I came for the wrong reasons, but it got me to start davening and learning how to daven. And that's when I was able to go to Asia Torah in Rockville once I got married, because I was already now getting used to this idea of davening on Shabbos morning. Of course, I came for the chilling, and it was really quickly. I came, obviously, after a few weeks of just chilling, I came really for the classes and learning. And that's what started my Jewish journey. So I did it for the wrong reasons, but I came to do it for the right reasons. Okay, enough of that. Huh? Yeah. 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 Okay, so we talked about director, supervisor. We talked mindless eating, switching the rooms, getting the things, their idea. Another parenting hack is teaching your kids to say, is it possible? So let's say, for example, your kids are watching a video at night and it's time for bed. It's 9 o'clock. Oh, it's time to go to bed now. No. Can we watch it? And they want to watch them for another half an hour or whatever. Teach them to say, is it possible? Because it changes the dynamic of the relationship. When they say, Abba, is it possible you can watch for 10 more minutes? I go, it is possible, but how about 5 minutes? And you negotiate with them. But when they say, is it possible, they're not screaming, no. It changes the dynamics. And then as a consultant, once your child reaches a certain age, you can't supervise them anymore. This is like when you get to be, 14, 15, 16, 17, you can't tell them what to do anymore. They're making their own decisions in life. But you turn to consultant. But a good consultant needs to have wisdom in their toolbox. The average Fortune 500 company in America spends $150 million on consultants. Why? Because they make more money because of it. It helps their bottom line. When do people who are married get consultants? When things are falling apart. And by then, it's already too late. And again, this is a common example when I see relationships have failed. She's going to say, well, he stopped, paying attention to me, and or she doesn't respect me, she abuses me, criticism. It's usually the truth. There's his story, there's her story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Because when you got married and you walk down the aisle and you're going to the chuppah and you're in love and you think that love is going to last forever, do you know why? Because it's easier at 25 years old. But if you don't know how to manage this relationship, if you don't know how to understand what love is to that person, you're going to have a hard time. And this is what I teach. That men need to be respected and women need attention, affection, appreciation, and awareness. A new appliance, I bought an air fryer last year. You guys know what an air fryer is? Ninja. Ninja has great products, don't they? Great products. So we bought this air fryer. We didn't want to get it because we don't have so much space in our room. It's not like we live in America. We have garage we can throw stuff in. So I researched it. I thought about it. Okay, we're going to get it. So I got this air fryer. And it has an instruction manual. Do you think I read it? Of course not. And if an air fryer comes with an instruction manual, do you think God's going to make us without an instruction manual? Do you think it's possible God's going to create a human from the dirt from the ground and his breath of his soul and say, oh, here's a human, have at it, have fun. It's not like going to the hospital and having a baby where they hand you the baby and there's no instruction manual. God gave us an instruction manual. And it's called the Torah. And Torah does not mean it's a bunch of guys walking through sand dunes wearing togas. It's an instruction manual for life. And everything about raising children, we learn what to do, what not to do. We even learned this week, or last week, that when Yaakov plays a favorite with Joseph, what happens to the brothers? Creates animosity. We're going to get into this in a second. And if you had a consultant, if you were a parent, if you can go back, or if you were, I got to tell you something. I've been on a number of podcasts in the last few weeks. I'm promoting my new book, Emotional Vampires. By the way, this is my book, Sunscreen Love. It's free. I have copies here. The 4 phases to find the love you want. You have it already? Oh, yeah, a lot of people have it already. And I have another book I've been giving away called Never Feeling Loved Again, Symptoms and Strategies to Cure Low Self-Esteem. I'm almost out of those. I give away 1,000 copies. I have another 1,000 copies of these coming. And then Emotional Vampires is coming out in a few weeks. I actually might have copies here for sale. My manager said I cannot give them away anymore. I have to sell them. And then if you want to, after class, you WhatsApp group, I post my upcoming books. I have a lot of books coming out in the next few years. And all my events here in America that I do. I don't bombard you with stuff. You can get off if you want to, but if you want to hear about my stuff, that's the easiest way to find out. Anyway, I was talking about if you had a consultant in life going into a relationship, how much better off would you have been? So I was on these podcasts, and these women say to me, they're in their 50s, and they're all PhD in psychology, and they're all divorced. And And I'm talking to them, and it's funny because I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who teaches and whatever. And they have no idea. Like I said, so how do you define love? They can't define love. They don't define love and marriage. I'm like, well, what happened? They go, well, I didn't know back when I was 20. I'm like, of course, you have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing. And most people have no idea what they're doing. And this is what I teach. That as you age, as your kids age, you play a different role, and understanding those roles helps you to navigate the children better. We're going to learn why. Second part of this class is called Make a Fence for Your Children. Is that clock right? There's no way. It's 1:45. Are you serious? Did I talk so much? Oh my. Maybe. Okay, let me hurry up. Make a fence for your children. The first mission in Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Father, says, make a fence for the Torah. Why a fence? What is the fence made for? Protection. Keep things out, keep things in, right? You have a fence in your backyard, keep out the foxes or the deers, and to keep in the kids and the dogs, right? As a supervisor, you can't control them, but you can do a decent job of keeping bad things out. And the first decision you're going to make in your life, the biggest decision, is who you're going to marry. The second biggest decision is where you're going to live. Why? Because your children become a part of their environment. This is why I say, even when I go to Tel Aviv and I see, it's very secular, but like it's amazing. Like, if you're living in, Detroit, you have bless you, there's a 28% chance you'll marry a Jew. Most likely you're going to marry out if you're not observant, right? At least in Tel Aviv, you have a fighting chance. Most likely, 98% chance you're going to marry a Jew, right? You have a fighting chance. You're putting yourself at least in the right environment. But if you want to be great, you have to hang around people that are greater than you. And this is why a lot of you, we talked yesterday about Isaac, Jacob, the fact the 3 parshiot are called, and he went, and he sent, and he settled. That sometimes you have to get out. You have to leave your environment that you think is good for you because it's comfortable and it's nice. You have to come to a place like Jerusalem, right, and come to classes where your parents aren't here and your friends aren't here, and you can think for yourself. Like I say to all my students in foundations, I bet you guys, your parents said you're going to get brainwashed. They go, Coach, you were completely right. You said, my mom told me to get brainwashed. And I said, you know why they tell you that? Because they're completely correct. Your brain needs washing. You got to get rid of all the schmutz, open your brain up, allow things that are good for you, and keep things that are bad for you. And every community has some negative influences. There's no perfect place. Even a stark, firm community is going to have negative influence. It's if you put your kid in the right community, you have a fighting chance, right? And this is why married men stay away from strip clubs, and people in AA don't hang out at bars, and a person on a diet isn't going to an all-you-can-eat cheesecake restaurant, right? Because you can't control yourself when you go to these places. You stay out of them. We don't put milk on the table when we're serving meat, right? Because we have to show that things that happen, right? And if you're going to put non-dairy creamer on the table or almond milk, you have to announce, this is almond milk. I'm putting it on the meat table, but it's not milk. We have to protect ourselves. Pirkei Avos, Mishlei, it says, Mishnah 1, chapter 7 says, distance yourself from a bad neighbor and do not associate with a wicked person. Now, they sound like the same thing. Don't associate with a bad neighbor and don't distance yourself from a bad neighbor and don't associate with a wicked person. Now, it's obvious not to associate with a wicked person, but who cares what your neighbor is like? Why should that matter? And the reason why it's so important, the Mishnah answers this in a very, very profound way. If you're in a corrupt environment where you live next door to a bad neighbor, you may lose your sensitivity to what is good and bad. You may not recognize that our bad neighbor is bad anymore, and then your children start hanging out with the wrong crowd, where right is wrong and wrong is right. It's a very common thing because we lose our sense of what right and wrong is when we don't have something to guide us, and that's what the Torah does. The Torah guides us what's right and wrong. We have something, we know how to live our life. Like I said, it's instruction manual for life. Understand the parenting paradox. This is by Rabbi Stephen Bars. He's an Aish rabbi. He lives in Baltimore now. He says, what is the worst thing your child can ever say to you? What? You messed up? Yeah, what's the worst child thing can say to you? What's the worst thing your child can say to you? Where's your answer? I need your answer. Yeah. To a parent. What's the worst thing a child can say to a parent? Huh? I hate you is not it. You know why? It means there's a relationship. I don't need you anymore. I'm going to just give the answer because we're short on time. I don't need you anymore. Why is that a paradox? We said earlier, one of the goals in parenting is for our children to become independent and make decisions on their own, smart decisions. We want them to be out on their own, living on their own life, and be independent. But we also want a relationship. We want two things. We want to be on their own, but we want the relationship. The paradox is when they say, when I don't need you anymore. And that's one of the worst things. Your child it means they don't want a relationship. I mean, your kid can move to Guangdong, China, never see him again, and you'll survive. Are you going to be happy? No, you're not going to be happy. Because ultimately, that's all we want from our kids is a healthy relationship. Elie Wiesel quotes from the Torah Mishle that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. When your kids are indifferent to you, you've lost your kids. And this is why it's so important. I'm telling you right now, if your kid is smoking pot behind the junior high school, right, as long as you have a relationship with them, it's okay. If your kid comes to the Shabbos table wearing jeans and a t-shirt, as long as it's a Shabbos table, it's okay. When you start criticizing them, you're going to lose that relationship. It's better if your kid watches porn at 15 years old and has a relationship with you, right? Your kid, you can catch your kid watching porn at 15, right? It's a whole big issue. I have it, it's in my class, Kosher Climax. The whole idea that you can take away their phones, take away their computer. Guess what? They're going to find a way to watch porn. They're going to go to a friend's house. They're going to see it at school. But you know what's going to happen? You're going to lose that kid. Better you have a relationship with that kid and he watches porn than he don't have a relationship with the kid and he watches porn. Because what's going to happen as they get older, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, they're going to come back to you as long as you have a healthy relationship. And this is why the most important thing is to just love your children. Love your children. We're going to understand what that means. Because I said, just like love in a relationship, what does it love me? I can say I love you to my wife every day. And if I don't follow it up with attention and affection, having awareness of her needs, that means absolutely nothing. It means nothing to her. Love is an action word. I am in the act of loving you. It's not a noun. I love you means nothing. I mean, the first time you say it to your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, that might mean something. But after that, it doesn't mean anything. It has to be backed up with action. Here we go. Here's the key to the class. You ready for this? We talked about one of the other ideas. I said, give your kid choices, give them the options. That was a game changer. It's a game changer, I'm telling you. Here's the other game changer. My sister said to me after my father died in 1985 and my mother died in 2009. And I'm the fourth child. Just there's four kids, and my brother's 3 years older, and I have two sisters, 10 and 13 years older. So I'm the baby. And if you're a parent here and you have a number of kids, you know the baby is always going to be the baby. I tell them I go, even when you're 60 years old and a grandmother, you're still my baby. That's a fact of life. Do you understand what I'm talking about? You're the baby, so they're always the baby. They still call you the baby if they're alive, God willing, right? So my sister said to me, I remember this clearly. She said to me, who do you think Dad's favorite child was? And I said to her, that's the stupidest question anyone's ever asked me. She goes, I go, what are you talking about? Dad took me, back when I lived in Alexandria, Virginia, he took me to the horse races every single month. I used to play the horses. You know, we bet $2 on every race. He took me to all the coin shows and coin clubs all throughout the week, and on Saturdays and Wednesday nights. He came to all my shows at school where I performed, I played piano, sang and dance. He'd stand in the front row, stand up remember, I'm 15 years old. He'd stand up and go, yay, yay! He's the only one standing and standing a little ovation. Of course, I'm embarrassed, right? My dad, every night after dinner, would take a walk, and he'd bring a football, and I'd go out on routes, and he'd throw footballs to me every single night. I would go for routes all night. My dad on Sunday morning, I delivered the Washington Star newspaper. It was an afternoon delivery back in the late 70s. Sunday morning, he goes, make sure you wake me up. And on Sunday, the papers are heavy. And he pushed the cart. I couldn't put on my bike because they're too heavy. In the week, I put on my bike. I just biked to my houses. I had 42 houses. He'd push the cart for me every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. So I said to my sister, that's the stupidest question anyone's ever asked. Of course I'm Dad's favorite. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? She said to me, we all feel the exact same way. The paradox is how to make multiple children feel like they're your favorite. What is more important than telling your children you love them? You can tell your kid, like I can tell my son who's 14 now, I love you. Do you think it means a lot to him? I have one daughter who loves hugging and kissing us the night before sleep. Every night she does it. She likes to say it. It makes it to her. It's important to her. The kids, they don't really. You guys are married here. You and husband can say, I love you every day. It does nothing for you. It means nothing. It's words. It's empty. It's action that matters. But for a kid, it's totally empty. You know what means more important saying I love you to your kid? Number one, understanding what drives each child, because what motivates them, because what motivates one child doesn't motivate the other one. If you ever say to your kids, why don't you like your brother or sister? You're destroying them. You can destroy your kids. Do you know that? This is why words are important. As Rav Gov says, think twice before you speak once. You have to understand every word you say is important. My wife said to me before we got married, be careful what you say. When you say words like divorce and hate, those words are floating out there. And so I have to be careful what I say to my kids. And number two, knowing you have their back. For them to know that you are there for them in all situations. It doesn't mean you have to always support them. They could be wrong, obviously. But that you have their back for them. They know you're there for them. More important than anything else, saying I love you, you understand what motivates them, and they know you have their back. And that starts to create independent, happy children. And this is why cry it out is not a good way to raise kids. And guess what? It's hard work. You want to have babies, they're cute. I have a whole class on be a joy Jew, not a oi Jew. And I always say, is there joy in having a baby? And oh yeah, there's joy in having a baby. There's no joy in having a baby. Sorry, there's not. Because if I said to you, the U.S. government's going to, or the Israeli government's going to take away your child after 1 year, at 1 year old, you never see your child again, would you have a baby? No, you wouldn't, because there's no joy in having a baby. It's a lot of hard work. The joy is future potential happiness. Your life changed. First of all, you got to, I mean, I don't have to carry around a baby. My wife had to carry around a baby for 10 months, right? She had to push this little 8-pound thing out of her tube. She did it at home in a bathtub with no drugs, no nothing. She, hypnobirthing. It's hard work. And it's hard work waking up at 3 a.m. to nurse and to rock your kids to sleep for 20 minutes. But if you want to have great children, if you want to raise superstars, it takes hard work. And don't think you'll be a parent. I got upset recently. I was at a dinner for my son's school here in Jerusalem, and there was the men and women sat separately at these tables, and there was a guy with a baby in a stroller. And I guess his wife was on the other side, and the baby starts to cry. And he's going like this, at the table like this with the stroller. I'm like, pick the damn baby up. Get out of your seat, pick it up, and start rocking the baby. I wanted to do it for him. Stop being so lazy. Your kid needs you. He wants you there for them. And when you pick him up, he knows you have his back. And that kid's going to be much more independent and have much more emotional health. Emotionally healthy person because he knows his parents had his back. And lastly, be a hugger, not a bugger. Do you guys like to be nagged? Do you guys like to be nagged? Why? So do you think nagging your kids is a good idea? Do you think criticizing your kids is a good idea? Do wives like to be criticized by their husbands and husbands by their wives? So why do we do it? Why do we do it? It makes us feel better. We have low self-esteem. It's true. I'd say it's true. Here's the thing. For teenagers, everything you tell your children not to do becomes appealing to them. Children become desensitized to the word no. So here's another parenting life hack. Where am I going to get done with this class? When you finish Shabbat dinner and you want your kids to clean up the table, you say, okay, I want to clean the table. Do you know what happens? Scatter. Bathroom, couch, go downstairs and change clothes, visit a friend. One person will take 1 or 2 things to the kitchen, they're done. No one cleans the table, right? So what I do, I'll say to my kids, I want you all to clean up 5 things off the table. Kid number 1, what he does? He goes to the couch. I'm tired. He goes to sleep. Kid number 2 picks up 2 glasses, puts them in the kitchen, leaves the room. Kid number 3 picks up 5 things, puts them in the kitchen, finishes. Kid number 4 says to himself or herself, you know what? My parents are pretty smart. They know if we ask to clean the whole table up, we won't do anything. So they're asking us to clean 5 things up. I'm going to do what my parents really want. I'm going to clean the whole table. Kid number 1, who wants the couch? Let's call him a Russia. He's not a bad person. The word Russia doesn't mean bad. It means incomplete or unfinished. He didn't do his job. Kid number 2, Benoni, in the middle. He picked up 2 things, did what he was supposed to do, we did something. Kid number 3, we're going to call him a tzaddik. He's a good person. He did what he was supposed to do. But kid number 4, what are we going to call him? We're going to call him a chassid because he did over what he was and beyond what he was asked to do. So how do you raise kids to be chassids? And here's the key. You have to love them and don't antagonize them. Because once you start antagonizing and criticizing them, you're going to lose them. When we moved to Israel 6 years ago, my son was 14 years old, didn't speak a word of Hebrew. Went to 4 different high schools, didn't work out. And we said, you have to go to school like somebody, you have to, school, no offense, is meaningless. Especially today's age. You can learn so much online, you can learn so much other places. School is meaningless. What's more important, that they know you have your back, you know you understand them, and that you're there for them. And so we hired private tutors. He learned Gemara twice a day, 2 hours a day. He learned guitar. He learned things that made him happy. And he started, for 9 months, when he moved here, he had no friends. Not one friend. Corona changed it. Because once Corona happened, we have a dog who's really cute. She's adorable. And we had a foosball table. So some of the kids who were not afraid to leave their house, because we lived more than 50 meters away from them during the shutdowns, they came to my house. And so he started making friends. And from that, he made other friends. And now anywhere he goes in Israel, he has friends. He's doing an amazing job. Why? Because we had his back. And tell you what, it was not easy. I had to make some decisions I probably wouldn't have made if I was still living in America. But you have to adjust to make sure your kids are happy. So you have to love them, don't antagonize, or they'll go tattoo their eyes. Love them, don't antagonize, or they'll come to terrorize. Love them, don't antagonize, or you'll come to eulogize. Love them, don't antagonize, live with happy girls and guys. This is the 4 parts to raising a child. Understand your role. You're a supervisor, director, consultant. Make a fence for your children. Understand the parenting paradox. And be a hugger, not a bugger. Just love them, don't antagonize, and you'll raise a family full of superstars. Thank you very much.